Long have brilliant inventors and engineers been working to perfect splatting power. Something long-ranged. Something that kills fast. It must paint well. The perfect gun. They created the Heavy Splatling, a long-range gatling gun with devastating fire rate that can cover a splat zone alone. There's only one problem. It needs to charge. Hi, I'm Dr. Fish, and I want to examine the Heavy Splatling. The Heavy Splatling is a gatling that requires a little over a second to charge up a barrage of ink. It's long-range, firing close to as far as a splat charger. However, unlike chargers, there's no line that points you out to your enemy team, which is quite helpful. It also can't splat in one hit. Each bullet does a base 30 damage, a 4-shot splat. One easily obtained, considering the fire rate is so high. It only takes 16 frames to splat at its fastest. Considering its range, this is very oppressive. The weapon, as previously mentioned, is a backline powerhouse. Not only can it kill from far away, it paints quite well while remaining relatively safe. It's a fairly uncommon mix of traits. Most anchor weapons either splat well or paint well. The Heavy is good at both, and quick at it too. The Heavy splats holds an area, paints, is long range, and is even more versatile than most other ranged options. However, its big gimmick and greatest weakness is the charging. The Heavy charges the first ring in a little under a second, with the second ring charging even faster. Once fully charged, a high-powered barrage is sent. However, this is where the downsides occur. Firstly, you are quite exposed when charging. You are forced to stand for the duration of both the charge and the shooting. You are going to be quickly removed by any fast-splatting versatile shooter. To combat this, you can charge behind some sort of cover. Using the terrain to your advantage can always be a big help to you, but it is especially helpful when you can so easily get caught out. Charge behind cover, then come out swinging. With how oppressive the firing can be, this will often be enough to secure a kill. Still, unlike a charger, you have to track your enemies. Being able to track faraway enemies is one of the most important aspects of the weapon. 4 shots is quite a lot, and though they come out quick, missing even 1 or 2 can let the enemy escape, or worse, splat you. Mastering this aim takes a Heavy Splatling from a long-range annoyance to a long-range splatterer. Splatterer? That isn't the only skill needed to turn the tides of battle into your favor. Once again, unlike chargers, the Splatling does the same damage at the same range, no matter how much you've charged. This makes partial charges insanely important to the Heavy. Charging even a fourth of the first ring is enough to get a splat, if all the bullets hit, of course. Use this to fend off enemies that get too close. It makes the Heavy Splatling a lot more viable at close ranges, where most other anchors tend to struggle. Not charging the full amount and not finishing a barrage you charged are integral skills to making the full use of the weapon. You really need to have the full charge. When you need damage fast, you can charge as much as you need, and shoot only for as long as you need to. Also, small tip, you can use single bullets to get around without actually needing to charge. Could help you get out of a tight situation. Another important optimization is run speed. Splatlings take the most amount of time out of ink, and Heavy especially suffers with how slow the inherent strafe speed is. You, more or less, need run speed to make Heavy work as optimally as possible. Considering that Heavy doesn't especially require other types of gear, it's not the worst thing in the world, but you should be aware of how useful run speed is. Also, the main power-up effect has the Heavy charging more bullets in a barrage. Pretty useful, especially if you want to be more offensive than defensive, but it's no damage up, or even run speed up. So now we understand the basics of the actual weapon, but what about the kits? Well, let's start with the vanilla kit. The vanilla heavy has one use and one use only: Stingray. The Stingray is a huge beam that you aim and control. When controlling it, you move slowly and aim slowly, so knowing where to target and doing it from a safe distance is key to making the most out of it. So, fire it at objectives. In any mode except zones and turf, you will know where the objective is, and by aiming your fuck-off big laser, you are preventing anyone from getting any more points. It alone can retake or stall the objective. You can also use it to try and pressure long-range enemies or shoot it down narrow chokes. Though the Stingray can kill, don't forget how important it is to push and reposition enemies. It can be worth it to just prevent the enemy team from gaining ground. The synergy with the heavy is obvious. This weapon already stays in the back. You almost always have a safe place to launch the laser. The heavy can also paint well, and can get the Stingray surprisingly quickly. The vanilla heavy is a strong choice if you want to use the Stingray. But what about the sub? Well, it's Sprinkler. Sprinkler gives you more Stingray, and, maybe lay it in a contested area to get some paint, but don't, since it will almost instantly be destroyed. Paint spawn? Oh, it can be used as a shield for a bit of damage. Yeah. Damage? Sure, you can, maybe. Okay, in all reality, the Sprinkler just isn't a strong sub, except for building your special a bit faster. Luckily, Stingray is a great special, but most of the subs could probably do a better job. Overall, the vanilla is a more long-range anchor kit that does well at getting people off objectives, and sometimes pestering them from halfway across the map. Use it in Rainmaker, Tower Control, or even Clan Blitz to harass those people who actually do the objective. Idiots. The Heavy Splatling Deco has a more aggressive, forward-facing approach. Its sub is Splash Wall. This thing is a great defensive tool for you and your whole team. Put it in contested chokes to provide cover. Remember how I said Splatlings get a lot out of charging behind cover? Now you can extend the cover with the wall, and have a nice safe place to fire at your enemies where they can't fire back. The wall is pretty expensive and used much more aggressively, so reloading should be a constant thought. Also, getting a full charge behind a wall takes up a lot of time, and it may be better to just splat an enemy than place a wall. It's still a great sub, but make sure you aren't overextending yourselves. You are an anchor after all. Adding to the defensive yet offensive kit, the Bubble Blower is an amazing tool to keep you alive and push the objective. The big bubbles are tough nuts to crack, but by cracking them, you get a giant explosion. This explosion can be quite deadly, though without a quick way to pop the bubbles, you aren't going to be nuking many enemies, unlike some weapons. The Splatling needs to charge, making any explosion hard to do by yourself. For Heavy, they are more used as a pressure tool and as giant shields, or you can paint in a splat zone. Quick tip, put on some object shredder to pop the bubbles quicker. The Deco has two different options to protect itself and the team. These options also allow you to be more forward and work with your fellow teammates to push. You'll like the Deco if you'd rather take space and take names. It's also the only set with a good sub. Most people will likely appreciate this option the most, even though I personally find the wall to be pretty awkward. I just dislike the wall, never liked the way it deploys. It's time for the remix. The Heavy Splatling Remix is the third and final kit that includes Point Sensor and Booyah Bomb. Booyah Bomb is the obvious reason to spring for this kit. It's a rare special that is not only one of the most fun specials, but also incredibly useful. Charge it up, with the help from the team of course, and toss it at any problem areas. Nothing can stop it from... oh, dang. Yeah, it's not exactly the panic button it might seem like. Still, if timed properly, you can dissuade flankers and slayers quite well, something appreciated for a backline weapon. You can just throw this at the tower or at the zone to completely destroy the objective. But I'd also recommend throwing it at areas where the enemies are camped out. It can be good to pressure long-range foes, much in the same way the Stingray does. Stop you from dying and applies pressure. What more could you want in a kit? Well, a good sub-weapon. Alright, hear me out. Point sensor is okay. Now it doesn't splat, and in any situation with comms it's not super useful, but look, ranked is a solo experience. It's you, 3 teammates, and 4 enemies. Being able to suss out the locations of enemy squids, pointing them out to the entire team, makes teamwork and splatting far easier. Slapping a giant kick me sign will make anyone easier to splat, if your aim is good. This aspect of the point sensor is very useful for an anchor weapon that requires some pretty decent tracking to splat. Marking an enemy and following up with a quick splat is doable, if awkward because of the charge. More useful is marking them to keep track of where they are, preventing flanks, and being able to dispose of someone that thought they had a beat on you. People who have been point censored never really act any different, despite every enemy seeing them. Strange. And finally, just let your allies deal with it. Why do all the work when your minions can take care of it? This is where you can support well by making sure any enemy trying to enter your turf is always marked. Again, just cause it doesn't kill, doesn't mean it can't help. The remix excels in area denial. The point sensor and Booyah Bomb can clear out or deter enemies from their perches and choke points. Use the remix mainly in zones or tower control to take advantage of the Booyah Bomb's huge paint-creating attack and predictable movements of enemy squids. Between the 3, they are all useful in their own right, depending on the modes, maps, and what your personal preference is. The Deco is probably the most consistently strong, with a Splash Wall being the best sub out of the 3, Bobo's being strong. Its more aggressive playstyle also lines up with the Heavy's ability to fight closer than any other anchors. The vanilla is best in Tower and Rainmaker, or just in general when you want to spam Stingray. It's definitely the most backline of an already pretty backline weapon. Remix is great if you like Booyah Bomb, a well-liked special of course. It's also great if you're insane and enjoy the point sensor, like me. It does best as a supportive anchor playstyle, painting important areas and occasionally throwing in a Booyah Bomb or point sensor. Overall, the Heavy is the most average, good at everything, not great at anything, backline anchor weapon currently in Splatoon. Its long range has great pain output, and it does good damage. There's not much to complain about, except for maybe not having any bombs. That's all from me, Dr. Fish, signing off.